Okay, everybody. What we got going on today is a little more transmission work. I'm going to put some gloves on for a bit because we're going to be dealing with some crabby old, little bit of oily stuff. Now, one of the things that I don't know if you guys have probably seen videos of people who have their bikes and all of a sudden they lose drive and they find out that the sprocket, the countershaft sprocket, is just spinning on the main shaft. Kalani, when I was taking his motor apart, we literally could not get the sprocket off. It was like, I can't remember what kind of problem he had. He mentioned it, I'm sorry, I've forgotten, but long story made short, the splines were a little buggered, and when you're going all the way this far into a motor, you don't want to, you got your motor split apart, you're doing all this work anyway, and if you had to fight putting a new countershaft sprocket on or needed to change sprockets, you can't get it off, it's spinning, it doesn't fit right, causes problems, you'd just be pissed off that you didn't replace the main shaft while you were in there. So, we are replacing the main shaft. Now this is a super easy thing to do. Let me grab a couple things while we talk about it. My wife thinks I'm going crazy because I'm talking to myself. Bye, sweetie.
Bye.
Isn't that great? I got a fridge, I got a couch, I got my YZ490 La Diabla hanging out there. KP, that bottom shelf on the left right there, that's your special place for all of your parts. Let's get back to this. I might even zoom her in a little bit. Let me see if I can not screw something up. So what you got to have is a little bit of patience, and ideally I have a zip tie or two. All you want to do is make sure, and I want to point something out that's really cool about these WRs that I don't think people really know. Something really cool here, but you always put a zip tie on both ends so things don't fall off, because there's washers and different things that you don't want to lose. Now I always start one direction and I start threading stuff right onto the zip tie as we go. So, you know, of course you got to split the cases, get everything apart to get down to this. Hopefully you guys don't have this problem ever, but there's a little circlip right here on the end of the main shaft. You got to get that off. Oh man, I just about lost it. This one is an elusive one, so I put it on anyway. Then you're going to have a washer. You do not want to swap these gears around because they've got dogs and stuff that interact with each other. We want to check all those while we have it apart. You wonder what a dog is. I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is where this gear engages. These are called dogs, and they basically lock in to here as you shift gears. And so you want to check and make sure they all look fairly sharp, and they do. You want to make sure there's no rounding or no worn off areas. Looks pretty good. We'll check each gear as we take it off, and this thing's going to come off, I can tell. We got a spacer. Now, one of the things I want to show you that's really cool, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. Let me flip this around. This is a WR thing that's really awesome. And that is, can you guys see, it's trying to focus, can you see that hole in that bearing right, in that spacer right there? Now watch, I'll turn 180 degrees. There's another one right there. There's also, inside, there you can barely see the ridge. Inside there is a groove machined out inside of here. That's for oil supply. This is a real cool thing about the WRs. Not all bikes have that, is they have an oil supply that is, I could show you on the case, that goes through the center of the main shaft and squirts out into the bearings. So it's no wonder these things have a long longevity. Spacer. You take this gear off, check the dogs. Really in excellent condition. I think he said there are 26,000 miles or something on this thing. There's a little bit of wear, but not bad at all. We got another clip ring. Cool thing is, if you have the manual, if you get screwed up, you can take your time, look through the manual, make sure you've got all the parts going back in the proper place. You screw something up on this and you put it all back together, it guarantees going to give you shifting problems. If you're off 20 thousandths of an inch on something, this deal will not shift. So looks good. On she goes. Okay, there's a spacer that's a knurl space. Want to make sure that everything goes on the same way it came off. Check the dogs out. Checking out the dogs. She looks good. Continue on. A little bit of wear there, but not bad, not bad. Looks good. It's another shift dog. Looks good. I want to check every single one. Make sure you don't see anything crazy. A little wear on that corner, but not bad. Now we're going to take this clip ring off here. Oh, she taut! Ah, yes. Another clip ring. Put that spacer on next. And once you get it all together, zip tie that sucker, man. Don't mess around. You lose one little thing or get it off, you're in big trouble. Let's clip that off so we can see what we got going on here. So here's what I wanted to show you guys. So freaking cool. Check this out. You've got holes drilled in the output shaft of your transmission. So this end is plugged. That's the sprocket. This is where your countershaft sprocket attaches. This side goes into the motor, and there's an oil feed in the end of that bearing, and it feeds into the end of the shaft and squirts out oil all along your transmission shaft, keeping it cool. That's why you got to change your oil, folks. Don't let it get too broken down. Change it often so that you get nice, good feed and make everything last a long time. But actually, these parts, the splines, look really good. It was this outside here that was all dinged up and messed up. And the splines are really worn. I'm sorry, looking at it with my eyes. These splines are hard to see, but they are worn down quite a bit. I would hate for him to put a new sprocket on and just zin, 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 especially with that new stroker, big bore, ported, tuned 310R motor that he's going to be having. We want a good shaft that doesn't strip out. So there is an O-ring right here too that we can put on after we put it together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this aside, turn the camera off. We're going to spray and wash all this, and we're going to use a little bit of assembly lube to put it all together on the new shaft, and then we're going to hang on to this as a memento of Athena 1.0. Okay, I know I got a lot of noise in here, but I want you to see, one thing I forgot to mention is when you have a new shaft, they put a packing stuff on it that makes it tacky and weird. You want to make sure and clean all that off so it's absolutely clean. I use brake cleaner, just cheap O'Reilly's, whatever you got. Brake cleaner or carburetor cleaner. Make sure you get all that tacky stuff off. And then when I put the shaft back together, I know it's going to be a little bit before it gets oil, so I always use this waterproof grease. This is from Phil. Hey Phil. And I just put a little bit of light waterproof grease on, and wherever anything's going to rub, so it's got some lubrication until the oil gets on it. Heaven forbid you don't want to burn up your brand new transmission shaft, okay? So I'm not going to bore you to tears on this. I'm going to slowly just put a little lube on it, put it all back together, and show you what it looks like. My people, here we go. She's all done. So we've got the new shaft. Nice good splines on the end. I've checked every gear, I've checked every washer, I've checked everything. It's got some grease on everything that is going to need a little oil until she first starts up. So it's all good now. One thing I do want to mention is that if you swamp your motor, keep in mind that there's oil in the engine, you know, and that gets pumped through everything. So on the WRR, because you've got oil that gets pumped through this shaft and feeds these gears, you want to take everything apart and clean out the shaft. Even if you're keeping the same one, make sure you get all the dirt, grime, and water and everything out of it as a result, because this shaft is done. We know that's all good, but we've got the other clutch shaft, the side that the clutch attaches to. We're keeping the shaft, there's nothing wrong with that, but I've got to take the entire thing apart, clean everything, all the orifices. We can't have any dirt, anything in there that's not oil. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll have the tranny pretty much ready to go back together.